I think a lot of agents get thrown off by saying, hey, they already have insurance, couldn't sell them. There's always gaps in the coverage because sometimes they may not have enough coverage. Maybe that coverage was good for them back then, but their needs have changed. Maybe they have a spouse, maybe they have kids, maybe they have other things that they haven't covered yet. So it's our job as an agent to do the proper discovery, to ask the right questions, to ascertain what they need, what we can help them with.
Awesome. So welcome to Agent Q&A. You guys, your hosts here, John. We got Albert in the house, and we got a special guest. If you could introduce yourself, Cecilia.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Chu. What a pleasure to meet you.
Carolyn,
brand new agent.
Brand new.
Yep.
Brand new.
How brand new? When did you get your license?
I just got notified yesterday that I got my license.
Okay. So we haven't even done contracting or anything, right?
No.
Okay, great.
That was actually a really quick one because we met. We've gone through the basic steps, and Carolyn, I'm excited to work with her because she's really eager to get started and learn this business. And we've been going through the process, and I was like, "You're not even licensed yet. We can't even get you started, really." But you submitted your application through the state last week, and then within like less than a week, she got licensed.
Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
Pleasant surprise.
Perfect. So it's a brand new agent. She has no idea what's next, right? Okay, so we're going to run down a couple of things.
Perfect.
So when you're a brand new agent in the industry, you have to be licensed to sell. And then before you sell, you now have to be appointed, meaning that you have a carrier contract for that insurance company to be able to sell their products. So that's going to be the next step for you. The first step is to get contracted, which we'll then do through FFL. So we have what's called an HCMS company, hierarchy compensation management system. That's FFL's system in a sense. We'll send you an agent invite. Once you open that email, you'll now have an agent profile to create. You'll attach your NPN, which is your national producer number. So California is confusing. California will give you a a state license number. And then overall throughout the United States, you have a national producer number. So you'll have two. In other states, there's actually just the NPN. They don't use the state. But once you pass your test, you wait on that NPN number to start. So once you create your profile, you'll now have access to get contracted with our main carriers. So Albert, what would you recommend the main carriers for her to get contracted in?
Yeah. So just kind of before we get to that, just to kind of further John's point of walking through the process. So if you are a person that's looking to build a team, or you have people that are interested in joining this business, the way to get them started is obviously you're going to send out the course. You took care of the course. In how long did it take you to finish the course online?
Not very long.
Yeah, you're on top of things, so you were good. You were like maybe a week and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, good.
Right. That's the ideal time in which you should finish it. I mean, so the thing is, if you finish it within 10 to 14 days, that's always ideal. Not just because it gets you started faster, but also because you retain the information better rather than dragging out this thing that you're not really going to remember everything for. You just need to get through it. So if you can knock it out in 10 to 14 days, which Carolyn did here, then as soon as that happens, you want to have your test date lined up. She took her test, passed it on the first try. Of course she did. And nice. Then after that, we're just waiting for the application process. So did the fingerprints, get that all set up. Once she has the license that came in a couple of days ago, at that point, then what happens is, we wait a day because typically the server needs to update before it's actually active in the server. But then, then we can go into the HCMS, as John mentioned. Whoever the manager is that's bringing in a new recruit that's licensed, you can go to your HCMS. At the top, there's a little plus symbol, and above your name, above your profile, you do the drop down to invite, agent invitation or agent invite or something like that. And then after that, I will just enter Carolyn's information, which we're going to do today. And then she'll receive an email that's going to have all the instructions as far as, the websites to go to, where to get everything, licensed, or enter all your information so you can begin the contracting process, which, Joanne's not here today. She's not feeling very well, so we'll get her back next week. But Joanne is the one that's going to help out with the questions along the way. And she'll send out additional welcome email with a checklist to go through everything. We're also going to have it on Discord, the contracting information so people can reference it at any point. Thank you, Clifton. Also,
Shout out, Cliff.
Shout out to Cliff for guest producing today in a pinch. Appreciate you, my man. But yeah, all the resources are going to be available. So the thing is, we're trying to centralize everything on the Discord so people can always access it directly from there. When people have questions, they can go on the support, and there's going to be a contracting channel that we're going to be have directly on there. So whether you're on the recruiting side of it or whether you are being recruited or coming into the business, we want to provide as much resources as possible to try to make this thing even more seamless, because it's not complicated, but I think for people to get to wrap their head around the nomenclature of like, where do I go and what's HCMS and,
Right.
what does contracting mean and what does this mean? Like, I have my license. It's just, so we're just trying to simplify things, and, it's a process, but with more time and, the more that we start to get the same type of questions, we can recognize, okay, this is how we can simplify it here, how we simplify here. So today, that's what we're working on. We're going to be working on getting you contracted, send everything out, and then we'll focus on getting some leads. How do we get started and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's very confusing at the start, but the best part is once you get everything going, that's out the way. It's only a one-time thing that we have to worry about. Right. So the next step is once you create your contracting profile, we then set up contracting with the carriers directly. So going back to that, what would you recommend the first main 3 carriers that we recommend?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching so far the Q&A. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if you guys like what you guys are watching, please make sure to like and subscribe to our page.
Didn't even get to that. Everything was such a mouthful earlier.
Yeah.
But, we want to keep things as simple as possible. So yeah, we have, 30, 40 plus carriers.
Correct.
And it's great having a ton of options, but I would never recommend an agent, hey, let's get signed up for all of them. Because what's the realistic likelihood of them needing to use all of them all at once?
Right.
So like I've been here for almost 10 years now? 7 years. There's a lot of carriers I don't use.
Yeah.
And I don't need to use. And it's nice having them, but if I never got contracted, it wouldn't make a difference in my life.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to keep it simple. We want to focus on Americo, Prosperity, AIG, and then Ethos will automatically get you contracted after you build up your profile within HCMS. So we have those 4. Those will cover pretty much every scenario that we need. Yes, there's going to be some additional IULs in the future. There's annuities, which we've discussed, and Carolyn's coming from the mortgage industry. So, we're going to have potentially crossover business that's going to require annuities and IULs. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's something that we can contract for when those opportunities arise, rather than, hey, let's get all that set up, because people do get terminated by carriers, because they have to pay for the appointment fee. And then if you're not producing for after a period of time, then they're going to terminate you. So like, why get the ball rolling on that thing and start things sooner when you don't have business yet?
And then to add to that, why do we want to pick these main 3 carriers? 1 is because the simplicity of it. And then 2, it pays the most. And number 3, they also pay additional bonuses for writing the same.
Correct.
Carrier. So if we have 30 different carriers, yes, we can pick each and every one. But if you throw all your business in multiple places, you don't get rewarded as much. But if you pick the AIG, Prosperity, and Americo and stick with those 3, we firmly believe, number one, the simplicity of it is that you're able to write a policy without ever having to do a second follow-up on it.
Right.
Because they're going to give you an answer on the spot in the application. Before you finish the application, you're going to get to figure out if the client's approved or not. Instead of doing a submittal of an application, wait for an underwriter review, maybe get declined, maybe not know about it, and then you have to come back and do a follow-up again on the client.
Yep.
So the simplicity of that, but more importantly, using these carriers, you're able to just zone in, figure out what the client needs, sell them within the policy, and get paid faster on it. Right. So that's what we suggest. And as you learn, of course, you're going to add on IUL carriers. You're going to add on annuity carriers. Things will get better. You'll adjust. But for the start of a brand new agent, not knowing anything about life insurance, coming from a different industry, it gets a little bit complicated, right?
No, not at all. And thank you for making it so thorough. But my concern is, how do you know that pricing is competitive? Like if you said Americal, and it's easy because I think it gives you an instant decision right off the bat.
Mhm.
Is there another carrier that gives you instant decision that compares? Because if somebody that's rate sensitive, how do I know who's more competitive if I want to shop around for the most affordable pricing?
Great question. You answer it.
So the thing is, yes, I mean, all the carriers are not that far apart. I mean, yes, it's a little bit more here and there, yes, but then the thing is, what we're selling off of is based off of value, right? So the thing is, America may be a little bit more than this carrier, but the thing is, it has a matching accidental death coverage that's automatically included. In addition, for us to be able to get instantly approved and the decision right there on the spot, rather than waiting and then having to go back and then pivot and be like, oh, by the way, you didn't get approved, or you didn't get it issued as expected. Let's try to do this instead. And clients, that's a bigger concern for most people. Like, people would rather have that certainty. So, like, one in the hand is better than two in the bush, that whole saying. So yeah, as far as rates, they're going to be pretty competitive. We have Prosperity, we have AIG, SIWL. Ethos is one of the cheapest term policies you can find, extremely competitive. So yeah, no, we've already have all these different options, and we're aware of all that. But these are the ones that are the most advantageous for the agents, especially when you're brand new. If you want to start adding in other ones later on as we continue to go, then yeah. But for the practical purposes of just training an agent, like, every application is going to be slightly different. They're not going to be that much far apart, but as far as like which section comes first and how to navigate through them, it gets overwhelming for agents, because sometimes even for us, we're like, oh, I haven't done this app before, or I haven't done this app in a while. It's the kind of interface has changed a little bit, and you're sitting there, you're like, I'm expecting this because I'm used to all these other applications. If you stick with the same four, then you'll understand how it works, and then everything else that comes after that will make much more sense.
Yeah. And let me answer in my way. When I was coming in brand new, I wanted to make sure I also saved the client's money. I wanted to make sure I find them the best deal. But when you start looking at all the insurance carriers, they're regulated, so they're actually dollar for dollar in their pricing. They're only going to be a little bit off from one or another. So we don't
a little bit off,
like a dollar or less.
Okay, so the versus Americo versus ABC company, that might potentially pay more, but you're saying as far as the premium for the client,
correct,
it's within 3% difference in the price.
Yes,
less
within like $3 to $5 of a difference.
$3.
Right.
And as far as you're saying that the service turn time might be slower than an instant decision. So what's a worst case scenario using a carrier that might take longer for a decision? I mean, we're talking a week time, 3 days. What's the turn time for that?
Right. So each carrier, so that's why I'm going to go. Besides the price, you're going to end up finding out that each carrier has processes that can go longer or shorter.
Right.
So these carriers, why we simplify it, is that we want to make sure that when the agent writes the business, they're going to get paid on it because they've already finished the application and they've already gotten approval. Timestamp, it depends. Some insurance carrier, we have to ask for a doctor record. And a doctor record can take their sweet time releasing that medical record to the insurance carrier. So we can go from 3 days to a week to 2 weeks. In the middle of that is you have a client in risk, in limbo, if they're getting approved or
And
not.
they might be co-calling by other agents if they fill out their information.
Not just that, but they could be dying in between and we're not covered.
Something could happen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So timing is a big difference. More importantly, when I was coming in brand new and I tried to show the lowest price possible, each carrier also has a specific underwriting, right? So there's levels of their risk and who they're going to accept, from a healthier to unhealthy. What's their level? What's their ceiling, right? So sometimes I'm thinking I'm doing the best thing for the client. I get them the lowest rate. I try to apply it for them, thinking they're going to get approved. Then they get declined. Now I showed too low of a price when they should have been approved for the higher premium, even for maybe $5 or $10. And now they're put off.
Can you submit the same application to 2 carriers at the same time for a decision?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Not recommended.
Here's why. It costs the carrier money every time that you submit an application, or every time that you even go through. So there's 3 components. We went over this the other day. So for a simplified issue, there's 3 components in which they make a decision whether or not a client can qualify for the coverage. 1, how you answer the underwriting questions on the application. 2, they do an MIB, the Medical Information Bureau check, to see if you've been rated declined for insurance in the past. And then 3, for the prescription history. So they run a prescription check. So they cost them money every time they run a prescription and MIB check. Okay, so the thing is, if you as an agent start running a bunch of applications and then it costs them money, but you're never submitting it, they terminate you. Right. So the thing is that you should, and it's like, will mistakes happen? Yes. But then the thing is, us as agents, we have a relationship with these carriers too. So the thing is, we want to make sure they're profitable, make sure it doesn't hurt the carrier. We got to make sure that everything's good. And there's really no need to submit two separate applications at the same time, because if we're doing the reasonable underwriting part of it, we're looking into underwriting guides if the client has medical issues, if they take medications, if they've had history concerns on their medical, then we got to do the pre underwriting first, and we should try to assess whether or not we should even submit this application. Right. And which, if you're brand new, then in this case you may not know. You can still go on the app. You can go on the underwriting guides, and you can find everything out yourself. You can call the carrier and get a risk assessment. But more likely than not, the easiest way is just to ask one of the uplines, or go on the Discord and then just ask in the group and just be like, "Hey, this client has this. What do you guys think?"
So how often, when a client gets denied due to whatever challenges on their health and from one carrier, and actually get approval from another carrier?
Quite often.
Yeah. It depends what it is. All the carriers have different criteria, which we know America, Prosperity, AIG, and Ethos, they all we're very familiar with their process, and they're generally pretty lenient. So the thing is, for us to be able to get a decision up front, even before we submit the application with America, and Prosperity is normally pretty good about that too, we'll know up front whether or not to complete the rest of the application. With the other ones, you may not know the health condition that well, or the underwriting condition that well, and then you submit the application all the way through, only for it to come back in a couple of days or a week later and be like, you didn't qualify.
Well, I would like to study their guidelines.
Sure.
Do they have guidelines on their website, like a cheat sheet or something?
We got it all in the Discord.
Just read the guidelines.
Right.
Okay,
So going back to your question, do we submit two apps? No, what we do is we actually submit one of our preferred app of what we think we can get them qualified. If for some reason the client lied or failed to mention something that popped up, sometimes they tell you what their medications they're taking now, but on the record 2-3 months ago, it's something stronger before, and it still pulls it up. So for example, if I use Prosperity and Prosperity went up on either the price or it gets declined, instead of submitting two at a time, we pivot. So we would stop the Prosperity because in the middle of the application it's declining. We would try another company. So it saves us time. So you'll learn as you go along with the process, which one's good, which one's getting approved. And then as you get more applications in, you're going to come into a lot of the same situation, same prescription medication, same situation with this client. Now you know which one to put them in.
So when we take our application, we have to write down all the prescriptions that they're taking, right? Or are we counting for the medical background check to show up? So it's not like we have to get the list and put it into the system.
The carrier will run it themselves to see what they actually take. So even the client says, like, they could be taking five prescriptions, and then they could tell you, no, I don't take anything. And then even if it goes through, it'll still come up on the prescription check that the carrier does.
Right? Is that just a conversation piece to have?
Yes.
Like, what medication are you on? Do we
yes.
We ask that.
Part of that's for us during our discovery process to see what they actually have, because a client can tell you, oh yeah, I'm healthy, I'm fine. And then like they start listing off all their medications, and you're like, yeah, you're actually not that fine. You probably do have something. So that we can normally ascertain what they actually have based off of the prescriptions that they say that they've been prescribed.
Yeah. And then also going to each carrier, you know how you wanted to study the underwriting guidelines. So most of the carriers, they have a table of all the medications listed, what it's for, medication, what it's for, and in what category they'll fit as a approval, approved level, approved grade, decline. So on the discovery, that's when we would ask, what medication are you on? Are you on this med? Are you on blood thinners? And then I can look up which carrier prior to doing an app.
So let's say I buy a lead and I talk to the client and they said, oh, I already have life insurance now.
Okay.
Is it possible to try to upsell them on their current policy with another company to have them come to us and let's reevaluate what you have? Perhaps I have something better.
Yes.
And that's kosherly to do in this business?
These are all great questions, by the way. So I'm glad you're asking this, because this is stuff that a lot of new agents think about. So in that situation, if you get a lead, you talk to a client, they say, hey, I already have insurance. You say, great. How much do you have? How long did you take that out? which company is that with, how much do you pay a month for that, all that good stuff, right? So you kind of make it, you can kind of figure out what they actually have. Now, the thing is, if you run a couple of quotes and you can actually beat that, and you can provide them with an objectively better product, it may benefit them to replace it if they're looking for something brand new and different. If they're in a good place with what they already have because they took it out many years ago, it's already past the 2-year contestability period. It doesn't need to be replaced because you can't really beat that rate because the issue age was so much younger back then.
So the key is 2 years.
Not necessarily. You want to assess the overall situation. So if they took out a policy and for some reason it's a lot cheaper, don't disturb it. Just add on.
Yeah,
see if you find a gap and then see if you can add on some additional coverage. If it's something that's way overpriced or it's a graded policy or something where you know that you can get them a better policy right off the bat, then you can be like, hey, here's an option. And then you can go through the replacement process, just check the box. And
do we even bother if they say, oh, I have a policy with Miracle right now? Do I even bother and say, oh, great, I deal with Miracle too. Maybe I could find you something a little more competitive in price and more coverage. Is that even worth it if it's the existing company?
We always bother. So our job as an agent is so I think a lot of agents get thrown off by saying, hey, they already have insurance, couldn't sell them.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, there's always gaps in the coverage because sometimes they may not have enough coverage. Yeah. Maybe that coverage was good for them back then, but their needs have changed. Maybe they have a spouse, maybe they have kids, maybe they have other things that they haven't covered yet. So it's our job as an agent to do the proper discovery, to ask the right questions, to ascertain what they need, what we can help them with, and then go from there.
Yeah, let me use my example. I made a sale earlier. So I called the client, he filled out a lead, and I asked him, do you have life insurance already? And he said, yes. Okay, what is it? I have $8,000 I'm paying $80 a month for. And I said, okay, so you've already had the policy. How long have you had it? He said, less than a year ago. And then what are you looking to do with this? Are you looking to add on? Are you looking to keep it? Or are you looking for a better rate? So I just do a discovery. And he said, I'm looking for a burial plan. I want to be buried. And my siblings are telling me I need more. I was like, yeah, you only have 8,000 and average cost of a burial is about 15 and 20,000. Well, I'm a broker. I have multiple companies to use. Let me see if I can find you a better rate.
Yeah, I think that's even a better lead because there's people going to buy life insurance and they don't. So if someone already have life insurance, if I could say, I could give you a better policy for less and maybe more coverage. It doesn't cost you any money. It only takes 10 minutes. Why wouldn't they hear me out?
So this was a 30-minute sale.
Yeah, that's even better. But there's no like contingencies with their existing insurance agent who they bought from prior ABC or a penalty or a lock-in clause to stay in.
Think of it like car insurance. You know how you can change your car insurance every time? Similar.
Oh, that's even
if you find a better deal, yeah. And then most likely his plan, it was a higher plan and it was 2-year graded.
They just bought the policy like 3 months ago and they switched. The other agent will have to give back their commission, basically, right?
That's where we come in because we have all the range where we have the potential of beating those rates.
Right.
If I just may add, though, I mean, the thing is, if it's an existing FFL agent, I mean, let's just show the courtesy to them and just be like, oh, if they say like, it's this agent and it's an FFL agent, let's just be like, okay, great. I'm sure you got a great policy. Let's see what we can do to add on in addition to that rather than replacing their business.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to cause a chargeback for them. So.
Right. Yeah. In my case, it was a totally separate policy. We don't represent them because we know they're expensive. So I already knew the carrier that they're with. They're like, yeah, we could beat that. So I showed them a plan, the $8,080 plan that he's paying. With Prosperity, he can get $15,000 for the same price, and it has a double accidental. So we almost double this plan for the same price.
So how would the client even know it's an FFL agent when they originally deal with, let's just say, Henry, who sold them the policy? Do I ask, oh, the agent who sold you the policy, what company they're from? Yep. They probably won't even remember, right? They'll be like, Miracle. Like, how will you even know? So when Henry first solicited this client, for example, does he represent himself like, I'm with a Miracle, or do they say I'm with, FFL?
I mean, technically they're independent brokers. I mean,
so do they say the brokerage, the company?
Not always, but a lot of times they'll send a business card over. So then the client, the client will have that. So, I mean, here's the thing. If it's an existing carrier that we have in our portfolio, the chances that it's an FFL agent usually might be higher. So, I mean, I'll just take that into account.
I mean, because if we're buying the leads from the same company, that might be a good repetitive things that happen.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So if it's the same carrier, I always just commend them for it. It's like, oh, that's a great company. We have them, we represent them.
But
So
I'm
you have a good rate.
The time when I'm talking to the client and they have an existing policy and I'm trying to upsell it, how the client wouldn't even know that they bought it from a prior FFL agent.
Right.
So how long do I have to go through this process? Taking an application, get excited. Then I'm going to find out when I submit to underwriting that they originally purchased this from an FFL agent.
So if you don't touch the old policy, you can always add on and you can have multiple
But what I'm
policies.
trying to say is I wouldn't know if I should touch the policy or not. It's how soon would I know if the person who sold them the policy is one of us?
Right.
Well, you would find out. So like if they say I already have a policy with America or Prosperity or AIG, these main ones, we could just assume that it's probably an FFL associate.
Really?
I mean,
why?
It's our main carrier.
Well, we're the largest IMO for one. So
we have about 27,000 agents.
Since the same policy to
you could.
To America,
I mean,
agents.
Yes,
that does that.
it's possible, but I mean, look, we also don't run into that situation that often either. Because how often do you run into that situation?
I mean, like once in a blue moon. Yeah. So we try not to step on each other's toes. But if you don't know, then sometimes it happens.
Got it.
But you shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be like, hey, I see a policy, let me just try to replace it right off the bat, because sometimes it's just really generally not beneficial to replace it because they've had it for so long.
Right.
And, they already have it. They already have cash value building up, and, it's cheaper because of their age that they took it out. Like they took it out in their 20s and they're 50 now. There's no way to like legitimately beat that.
So the policy never really go down in price with inflation and everything goes up. So if anything that's after 2 years prior, don't bother. Within 2 years, look into it.
Yeah. Well, here's another caveat too. This happens quite often. You run into a senior or someone in their 50s and above, and then they have a term policy that's going to expire at some point. That might be a situation where it might benefit them to replace it with either another term policy that's going to reset the term period, or you get them a permanent coverage like an IUL or whole life or something if they qualify based on their health. Then, this way it makes sense for them because that's going to expire on them anyhow. Right.
But going back to the 2 years, yes and no. Usually with life insurance, it locks you in at your age, at your health at that price. Right. So it's harder to beat an older rate.
Correct.
But you'd be surprised. There's a lot of older, worn out companies that have really bad rates.
Yes.
I've had policies where there were 10 years ago and we still had plans to beat the rates.
Yes.
So it's like, it's a win-win. Here's the $200,000 plan, or I can show you $300,000 and it's still $50 cheaper. It's a win-win. So you always want to do right by the client. If you run into situations where you end up replacing, as long as you go through the right proper channels, it shouldn't affect you. There's no bad situations that can happen for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. But these are great questions. You know the game. We didn't even get to ask like your full industry about like, let's go into that. We have a couple of more minutes. How do you see yourself in the business? You've been in sales, I take it, with the mortgage industry. What got you to switch out, and where do you see yourself in a long process with us?
That's a great question. It's really hard for me to answer right now. A little bit about my background. I've been in sales my whole life.
Hey, we can tell. You're gonna kill it.
I can tell.
You're gonna kill it.
No. I've been in the mortgage industry for almost 30 years. And I have my own mortgage company.
Okay.
And it's still existing. It's current. And we do loans nationwide. We are a direct lender. I'm also a licensed mortgage broker and banker. So we do every type of loan there is. So as a mortgage broker, it's the same concept, right?
Right.
I use phone burner. I buy leads. I know about leads. I do direct mail. I even have my USPS code in the post office.
Oh, wow.
When the mail drop, when I pay that much money, I know when it hits what zip code. I have my own tracking system. So I'm familiar with the lead concept, and it's not that much different. Like I had a boiling room. I had a telemarketer in India.
Man.
Where they transferred the live lead to my loan agent. So it's been a hard decision, and it's been very struggling because I've been doing it for over 25 years. I had a good run, and I don't know how to do anything else but mortgages because I started that in my 20s. And the mortgage industry has been really challenging the last year and a half. Yeah. I survived the crash in 2008. So a lot of people are not in business anymore. I survived that crash. this is not a crush. This is like cancer. It's like a slow death. And
Yeah.
and my palette is completely gone. And I love mortgages, and I'll always do that. But I'm looking for, it's not challenging for me anymore. And I still love it. Don't get me wrong. I think this is great in addition for me to provide another service to my mortgage clients, and I could cross sell. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome.
I'm a very committed person. I think I'm grateful that Albert is willing to take me under his wing. I interview with few companies, and honestly, I didn't even like all the people that I talked to. And I was like, you can't be my upline when I really feel there was a good chemistry, organically.
Yeah.
So when I met with Albert, it was a very different, a easy decision. I mean, I didn't come here because of the commission and the great pay. I came here because of him. So it's only my second day. So, I'm going to be a pain in all of your ass if you have a lot of questions.
We got your back,
So I
Carolyn.
would definitely support anything that you can tell me what I'm doing. And I'm just excited to be here.
Well, so
Awesome.
it's the same process. In the business, you being in the business already, you know the game. There's the product, there's the clients and the leads.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is just minutia of like proper processes. Seems like.
Being on the dialer and sit there for 10 hours and call 200 people and pound on the phone. I'm used to that culture. So I don't want to be driving. Just give me the leads. Let me just sit there and let me just talk on the phone all day. So I knew this is basically the same thing, except a different product of what I'm accustomed to. So I thought this might be, a good choice for me.
Yeah. And you speak other languages as well?
Yes, I speak Mandarin.
Oh, hey. So there's a lot of clients in there. Once you build up the IUL and the annuity, big clients that you can sell.
How difficult it is to learn the IUL?
Same concept. Think of it like explaining the value of the equity in the house. You put in money, it's going to build equity, called cash value, and you can do whatever you want with it.
It just takes a little
And
bit
it's
of experience.
untaxed.
Yeah. It just takes a little experience to kind of wrap your head around it to help paint the picture better for them, to help them understand how it works. So it's all experience. And Carolyn's going to keep me accountable because, she's on top of things. So she's like, hey, when can we start this? When can we start this? And I'm just like, got to make sure I'm on top of my stuff. So it's a good thing.
That's awesome.
I'm enjoying it.
Whenever there's a fresh blood, it always inspires the managers, because sometimes you run through the same thing and there's no new challenges or nobody that keeps you rising up.
Right.
So welcome aboard. Welcome.
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to be wrapped up for us. If you guys liked it, if you want to share this information to anybody that you know, please follow us and like us on FFL Elite Clips on YouTube. So we'll see you guys there.
Appreciate you guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Subscribe. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you guys want to subscribe, click here. If you want to watch the next video, click here.